to the DCI and then finally cap it off with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) when it comes to registration matters that is set to kick off on the 29th of September 2025. And also new rules of engagement the IEBC has just announced a few hours ago when it comes to the by-election slated for November across the country. On the second hour, our keen focus will be on the education sector. Now, for this particular first hour, let's start on that particular e-procurement system that has created a debate both on and offline, especially from the quarters of the Council of Governors, members of Parliament on the floor of the House, as well as other key stakeholders within that particular sector, with the ministry as well as President William Ruto clearly stating that e-procurement system is the way to go and the government will not be backing away from that particular system in the fight, of course, against graft. Here with us in studio is none other than David Alulu, the Chief Executive Officer, Regional Agency for International Development and Leadership. David, karibu sana.
Asante sana. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. As well, Dr. Isaka Sana, a governance expert. Dr. Always a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, Abdiaziz.
And before we start on our conversation, let's play a sound clip of the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, that is John Mbadi, in regards to this procurement system that he clearly states will be the way to go.
Government rolled out the electronic government procurement system on 1st July 2025 in what National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says is a movement to enhance accountability, confidentiality, integrity and authenticity in transactions between procuring entities and suppliers.
So is a demand that those of us who are charged with the responsibility of expending the very revenue that you collect must also equally employ fair, transparent, accountable, and cost-effective systems that would ensure prudent use of the resources that we collect.
Although enrollment was initially slow, with some protesting the introduction of electronic government procurement system, Mbadi notes that registration has steadily picked up as government agencies and suppliers rush to comply.
About 31 counties, their budgets have come from the controller of budget. Wengine wanapika kelele na hata budget yao haijakuja. The 31 which have come, they are being processed. 13 of them, I will give the statistics after today, maybe tomorrow. 13 of them have been processed. In fact, 2 counties are ready to start putting their annual procurement plan in the system. They are ready, they can put it.
Despite earlier concerns raised by the Council of Governors, Mbadi says 31 county governments have registered for the electronic government procurement system, with 13 devolved units fully compliant. He says hundreds of trainers of trainees have been capacitated to ensure the smooth implementation of the system. Sylvia Gatti reporting for Prime Edition.
There you've heard it from the Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi. Also yesterday, the Council of Governors called for a press briefing at Delta House in regards to the same procurement system. You've just heard from the CS clearly stating that 13 counties were ready to roll out that particular system. Let's get to hear from the devolved heads.
Governors saying counties will not be coerced into adopting the e-government procurement system. The county bosses said while they remain committed to effective service delivery, the national government must consult them before issuing national circulars or policies affecting devolved functions.
Only 3 counties participated in the pilot. Yet the system was enforced nationally before the gaps identified by the piloting process. In fact, I want to confirm that it has even failed in the counties in which it was piloted. It's not working.
The national government has defended the new procurement regime, saying it will stem corruption and improve efficiency in public procurement.
The e-GPay system, as currently implemented, undermines the distinct status of county governments as provided in the Constitution. We therefore call on the National Treasury to immediately withdraw the circular, directing the counties to implement e-GPay until proper consultations, legal alignment, and capacity building are undertaken.
Waziri mpya aliyeteuliwa hivi majuzi, Mheshimiwa Aden Duale, ataendesha wizara yake kupitia mambo ambayo yanaitwa matamshi ya barabarani, yale ambao tunasema ni roadside declarations, ambazo kulingana na katiba hazina uzito wowote. Kile kinachoonekana ni kana kwamba anataka tu kuleta vurugu kati ya serikali kuu na serikali za county, hasa katika matamshi yale.
Meanwhile, governors have accused the national government of setting counties on a warpath with universal health coverage staff. The Council of Governors accused the Ministry of Health of altering the contracts of the UHC staff without the involvement of the county governments.
They have failed to provide sufficient funding to absorb these people until their contract has come to an end. They want to set up the counties against their workers.
Governors want the Ministry of Health to allocate 7.7 billion shillings in line with SRC-approved salary scales if they want a seamless transfer of UHC staff to the county governments. Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
Now, we heard it from the two levels of government. I want to rope in Daktari. Daktari, you've heard from the national government, especially through CS John Badi, and now the governors clearly stating on that particular system. Let me get your opening remarks on this.
Thank you very much, Abdiaziz, for inviting us on this. I think e-procurement is the way to go in terms of fighting corruption. And we historically know very well that resistance will always come when you know very well things that you have been benefiting from. The corruption loopholes that government have had before will be sealed now, and that's why you see Council of Governors declaring their stand as if they are in a different government. I mean, we are all ruled by the constitution of this country, and e-procurement or digital technological procurement process is something that all countries are yelling for. I mean, you realize that countries that have gone that way have minimized quite a number of things that were going on the wrong direction. For example, what is this e-procurement process that we are looking at? This e-procurement process will enhance accountability. It will enhance efficiency. It will enhance cost-saving system. And of course, it will also empower others who have never had an opportunity to be privileged to get any contract in the government. And therefore, what we are trying to see is that corrupt leaders who are trying to protect their corrupt system and avoiding systems that will going to bring sanity within the procurement process of the government. And that's why you see they will start poking holes on e-procurement that has taken 15 years or 13 years after it has been rolled in terms of piloting the system. And that even was long overdue because technology does not require a long period piloting. Technology is something that people who understand that system will put it in place after they test it for 3 months. After testing it for 3 months, as they correct all the processes where they need to be adjusted, then eventually the system takes its way, or it takes pave. It clears way for people, the users, to use it effectively. And therefore, the challenge we have in this country is when people want to fight corruption, we will always find people who fight back so that they continuously loot public resources. These governors you see, some of them were elected when they were very poor. Today they are billionaires, overnight billionaires, and nobody have questioned them where that resources came from. Meaning then, they are the direct beneficiaries of malpractice within the county. And therefore, I think the president has come very clear in terms of what he wants for this country. I know quite a number of noisemakers have made a lot of noise when the government was formed, saying that, oh, the president is corrupt, oh, the president was like this, giving him several names. But now he said, okay, you gave me several names? Yes, fine, I accept all those names. But the important thing is that now let's move on. How do we move on? We must subject ourselves to processes that will going to audit us whether one is there or not, and will not give us a loophole to loot public resources. And therefore, those who have not looted enough, it is too bad for them. I tend to think governors must now wake up. Reality has caught up with them. If they have not looted enough, unfortunate for them.
Okay.
But I tend to think that, I mean,
we left that for the investigative agency.
I totally agree. I totally agree that is meant for the investigative agency.
Yes.
But these are reports indicated, it's documented reports indicated in the Auditor General's report. I'm not just speaking because I just want to attack them. No. I'm just saying facts that have been found subsequently. Every year's audit has reported malpractice and loss of public fund in all the counties.
Okay.
And therefore, the only way to block that is through e-procurement, and they should be ready for that.
David?
Thank you so much for having me. You know, every time something is resisted, it has a silver lining. And from the look of things, seeing what is going on and the many noise we are having around, this resistance, especially from the county bosses, signals something. Why would you want to have a problem with an e-procurement system? Because one, it is just a way of helping us have transparency in how we do procurement. Every Kenyan would want to know how Vihiga County, for example, is doing in terms of procurement. I want to know if I bid for a tender and I do not get it, there should be clear reasons to why I did not, and I can find that for myself. The days when people go sit down in some room and close and sort out and decide we are going to give David Dalulu this tender because he's going to give us some kickbacks should be far much gone by now. But then when you hear everybody shouting and saying, no, you know, this and that, it shouldn't be like this, it's because they know, like the Dr. is saying, somebody knows that this is going to rattle our stream, because to many people, the procurement is the stream that never dries out. Because somebody knows from every procurement, I shall use my proxies, I shall use my friends, I shall use my families to get the tenders and do everything else. So with the many noise, you see, they say if there is no voice to the leadership, if there is no any voice or opposition to any program that is being projected, then there is a problem. So with this, everybody should know that we are headed the right direction. And that is why fellows are having issues with the e-procurement, because somebody already knows, going this direction, my scheme shall be detected so easily. And with a country where people are so enlightened that even just looking around, somebody knows what you want to see, then everybody is very worried about the systems and how it's going to work. But I would encourage the Kenyan leadership, especially those who directly benefit from the procurement, to for once accept that this is a country for all. And being a country for all, then everybody deserves a right to benefit from their country. And if e-procurement is the direction to go, to be able to have even the young man in somewhere in Mandera, somebody somewhere in Turkana can still, in the comfort of their home, go into the online and upload their tender and everything else without having to travel. There is a time I saw people going to a government facility to stay there for 2 days waiting for tenders to be opened, and then I don't know, this and that done. So I think it is about time we accept and agree that we cannot be where we were during independence 60 years later. Every day is a new day, and we must agree. You know, I went to another country sometimes back before we got the digital driver's license. I had my booklet, a driver's license. So when somebody asked me for my license, I gave them. They laughed at me. They said, "You are a Kenyan?" I said, "Yes." Kenya is a very progressed and advanced country. Why are you having these old things, the colonial things? And so there comes a time we have to agree that change, much as is painful, but change is good. Change will help us, and we should do this in mind, being mindful of the generations to come. What do we want to transfer to the next generation? What do we want to give to people that are now walking in and they want to find systems rolling and working? So I think it is about time. And one of the reasons to why young people have been shouting a lot, even online, it's because these doors are locked to everyone. You must know somebody somewhere in order for you to be able to do business with government. We need to move from that, where you have to know so and so for you to secure yourself an opportunity to do business with government. And I think e-procurement is what is going to open up the flow and the room for everybody, the known and the unknown, young and old, to get into the system and get to know how to walk, how to work, and how to move on as a society. So I think the chair of the Council of Governors is wrong to try and resist that cooperation. I think it is about us having cooperation. And you know, sometimes it worries me for governors to feel like they are in another country outside Kenya. So it is important that we get to build an environment where we know that the county government, the constituency, the ward, and the national government, we are all under the same government called the Republic of Kenya. Okay. And for that reason, let's work together. Let's cooperate. Whatever seems not to work, we work around it to improve. Whatever is working, we embrace it and move forward with it.
Abdiaziz, I just wanted to add one thing. I think it is important for Kenyans to know what they go through. For example, if you apply a tender with full documents to one of the ministries or one of the parastatals, and that document is handed over to the relevant people or authority within that department, you will realize that there are people who remove essential documents from some of the bidders, and to make sure that when it goes before the bidding committee, they have insufficient support documentation. This happens in procurement. This happens in our crime system. You realize that a file, for example now, as you mentioned, Shah case has been taken to DCI. You realize that a file that has been completed and submitted to the ODPP, one way or another, someone will pluck one document or two from that file in order for ODPP to return back that file for completion. And this has happened in many cases that we even know. There are quite a number of even cases we know that happened in that manner. And therefore, when we have Kenyans who are not honest, when we have people who don't trust their own system, when we have people who believe that getting something out of what they are doing is the only way to go, then corruption will never end. And the current process will never be effective. The only way to know that everyone has got the opportunity to submit his documentations in a complete manner within any procurement system or even crime process is through e-platform. And therefore, we must embrace this system for the larger benefit of the Kenyan population. We are not interested in individuals who think that they may not benefit or this process will going to shed light on their malpractices before. And therefore, what we are trying to say is that it is time for us to embrace. There are many countries who have done this. For example, I just landed from South Africa and I've been there for the last 15 days. And you realize that every transaction, even in the supermarket, are electronics. People tell you we are cashless. Use your card. That is a transparency system or platform that has been put in place. You realize that in Dubai, recently I was in Dubai, the government has been has forced everybody to pay the government payments through a card. So if you don't have a card to pay, the government will provide you a card that you load in your cash and then go and make payment. You will not see any cash payment anywhere. You don't need to go to any office to go and make any payment. Okay. You just sit at the comfort of your desk and pay all services. Like of late, the e-citizen platform has given us a bit of laxity in terms of making payments, simply because it does not pick the bigger payments. It only takes small payments. What we want is everything should be on e-platform, both procurement and payment system. Okay. That way, we can be defined, as he said. When you go to some other countries and you say you are from Kenya, people will tell you Kenya is a Europe in East Africa.
Yes.
And when you come here, you find people reasoning in a very naive manner. Then you feel ashamed of yourself. Therefore, we tend to think the council of my friend, the chair of the council of governors, should retreat from the statement he has given and embrace the digital world. And I know he's on his last term. Okay. And if he leave that legacy behind, it will be something that will follow him for the rest of his life, and we're going to be happy that he has left a very good legacy. Okay. So there's no need of him being pushed by probably others who are still looking for a second term, and that second term, there will be no opportunity to steal.
Okay. Okay, let me go to David now. What the Council of Governors are clearly stating, it's a simple matter. They're saying some of the issues they had noticed, especially in those 3 counties that were doing the pilot phase of this particular program, they should be addressed. Is that not a legitimate concern?
It is a very legitimate concern. But you see, one error should never make the entire systems to collapse. I don't think that is the way to go. If I came here for an interview and one camera is not working, it doesn't mean that we should shut down the entire show because one camera is not working. We use what is working, what is not working, we fix it and get it flowing and working. The mentality of, sometimes back during President Uhuru's era, there came a UHC, a piloting program that worked, I think, in Nyeri, Machakos, and I think one other counties. So when the system was moving on, everybody was smiling. And then there came President Ruto, who says, we want to roll it across the country. And people say, no. We want to do piloting first. We want to do try and error first before something happens. So in Kenya, we have one big problem, a problem of opposing literally everything. Everything that comes, somebody must find a way of opposing it. Like I said, I was in another country somewhere, and somebody was telling me we have a problem with how Kenya works, that everything that must be implemented finds its way in the courts, and the court must give some orders, restraining orders not to do this or that, because we are turning our country into a country of activism, that everybody must say something about something so that they feel a sense of belonging. But to me, I think there comes a time when we need to be patriotic and say, yes, we know nothing can ever be perfect. Actually, my teacher told me, if you scored 100 out of 100, we suspect you cheated. All right? So there is always a time when you have to score 95 or 90. Most of the courses in university, the pass mark is 40%. So if pass mark at the campus is 40%, it means if I'm at 50 or 60, I'm doing very well. If I'm at 70, I've really passed. So there shall never be any system of government, or even in your own house, that will be 100% perfect. There will always be some challenges. What we ought to be doing right now, and what our leaders would be doing, is to try and address the issues that they are saying was a challenge, address them even as we move on. Sometimes it is until you make that decision that I'm moving forward is when you are able to fix some of the things that you thought you have issues with. But every time you say, I will never begin until such a time when I have everything else fixed, then, my brother, you'll never move forward. So the issues are very legitimate. The concerns are very real. We know it is true. Actually, if they told us that everything is seamless, everything is perfect, I would have a problem. But the fact that we have some challenges in there, then I am confident we are headed the right direction, because whenever we see and notice of issues that needs to be fixed, then it means people are at work. People are doing what they got to do. People are able to work out the challenges that exist. So I think, to me, like the president said the other day on Sunday, it is about time we agree. There comes a time we have to sometimes offend and hurt people, but we have to move. When 2003 President Kibaki came into office, then there came one famous minister, the late John Michuki, with the traffic rules. There was a lot of complaints, including people saying we are going to withdraw our matatus on the road. But eventually, people agreed, and we had some sanity on our roads. And so sometimes, unless you push it hard, people will always find a reason to why they should not do something. But then, as a government, I think this is that time where the government should not retreat. I've been telling people, if I was to be elected today, I would get into an office without thinking about my second term. Why? Because when you start thinking about your second term, you start listening to the voices of dissent. But when you get there and tell yourself, I have come to work and fix this situation. If people will appreciate my work and give me another chance, well and good. If they don't, I have a legacy to leave, like my brother here says about the governor, who should build a legacy that will go with him the rest of his life. So sometimes we should look at things that will change our lives and our community and society for the eternity. That when people come 10, 20 years from now, they'll say, Daktari implemented this and it is working for all of us. I think because we talk, like, for example, free primary education. Today, people are speaking about the systems that was put in place with President Kibaki, and they say, wakati wa Kibaki things were flowing because somebody insisted this must work. Every time we sit back and we want to massage some ego, we want to make everybody comfortable, we want everybody to say, yeah, now this is good, we can move, because what people want, they want something that will satisfy them and their interest. When we go that direction, we fail. But whenever we look at the bigger picture, I think we shall make it work. It is about time the leaders in this country embrace change.
Okay. Now, from that particular system, there is another system at the Social Health Authority, which not only the Cabinet Secretary for Health, that is Aden Duale, and the President clearly stated had detected attempts to defraud the Social Health Authority. That's why you saw why the CS invited the IG, the DCI boss, Amin Mohammed, as well as other investigative agencies within the country to hand over 1,000 files. Let me start with you, Daktari, on that particular note, because there have been voices that the CS for Health should resign over the attempts to defraud the Social Health Authority, which even the President clearly stated they will not pay the 30 billion debt that was accrued by NHIF until they are verified.
I think it is important for us to understand what is happening in Afia House or the Ministry of Health. Those early days when we were working there, the place used to be defined as Mafia House, meaning it is the most corrupt institution in the country, where a cartel has developed roots and you cannot even touch them.
Which report are you basing that on?
I am basing this report on 3 factors. Have you heard of COVID billionaires? Have you heard of the Global Fund procurement that was flagged by Global Fund themselves, the donors? Have you heard of the medical equipments that were designed to be supplied to the county hospitals? Where are they? Have you heard of the mobile clinics? These are schemes that are designed to loot resources from the ministry. The reason being is that medical equipments, medical supplies, drugs are the most expensive commodities within the system of the government, and they come with huge consignments, they come with huge budgets, and people are looking at this huge budget to see how best they can loot it quickly. So this has been traditionally defined as a system that must just operate, because if you can't join them, then you'll be out. So most of the people who are appointed there to go and make changes usually give up and they join eventually. Now, when you find someone is firm, I like the CS Duale, who has came out and said, okay, we have been accused of being corrupt as Kenya Kwanza government. Then let's work, let's do our job. And we do our job ensuring that business will not be as usual. And when he started the process of cleaning up Afia House, resistance has started. And resistance in Afia House comes from the system, the people who work there. They are people who have worked from day one of their employment at the age of 26, and until 60 they are still there.
Mm-hmm. And what about those hospitals? Because what the CS was talking about...
No, yes. It doesn't come from there. I want you to understand, let's not go to the periphery. We must understand where the root cause of everything is. And then it trickles down into those private hospitals. It trickled down into those government hospitals. Where will you find a hospital in Mandera waking up one day and putting claims without assistance of someone in SHA headquarters or someone in Afia House? So the chain is indeed from top to bottom, and then it reverses back when the money gets there. These are the systems that Adan Duale decided to crash. And what happens? You will find big shots, including members of parliament, coming out speaking on corruption, and yet they are part of those corruptions. As he has stated, those speaking loud are owners of those facilities who have been looting the National Hospital Fund for many years. And that is where they have been collecting their resources from. And therefore, I think there are two issues which must be defined here. One, is it that Duale is a beneficiary to what people claim to have been paid to facilities, or a system that has been corrupt, that Duale decided to track it until he found where the problem is, and now he's taking people to DCI for investigation and for possible prosecution. And therefore, I think Kenyans should understand that when the frog is making noise, in a proverb in my homeland, we said, when the frog is making noise, it does not stop the cow to drink the water. And therefore, I don't think the noises that the current beneficiaries of the corruptions within the system are making will stop Duale to do his mandated role within the ministry. Because when you go to Afia House now, some of us understand Afia House very well. You see the sanity. You see people hiding. Before, you will see Afia House is a place of cash cow for many people. And sometimes it is not only in Afia House. This is rooted up to Treasury, it is rooted up to Parliament, it is rooted to other ministries, even sometimes State House. And now, when those systems have been collapsed now, and you see Duale has taken over the ministry and said, okay, we are doing our own shit here, and this shit must stop. You will find people coming out saying Duale must go. Where is he going? I mean, he has been given duty to do. So we will be waiting for him to complete that, clean up Afia House, and make sure that Kenyans get the services they deserve within the health system. Governance, you see the way they are saying that, Duale, it's not about community health workers, or what do we call the ones they are talking about, or the budget allocation. They are also leaning towards the SHA, but they don't want to come out and clearly and say, he has stopped our payments, because they are also beneficiaries to that.
Now we leave it to the investigative bodies to tell us who are those people.
We will wait. We'll wait to see, but we'll be following it keenly. Abdiaziz.
We'll wait for that particular report. Let me allow David as well. David, as you comment on that as well, what has been the problem back then you have noticed within NHIF now the SHA system, according to the government, is addressing?
For starters, like we said earlier, when it rattles them, they will always shout. So, one, the NHIF was very easy to manipulate, very easy. I had somebody speak of a story somewhere many years back where they would go to a hospital and collude with the team at the hospital. I'm not sick, but for some reason, I'll be admitted into the hospital, and then the bill will come out 250,000. Then somebody will take 150,000, I take 1,000, and our deal is done, you know, defrauding the systems. Now, we are at a point where the government has put up a system that for you to defraud, you shall have really worked beyond your ability. I've had cases of people saying SHA is not working. Let me say it here without fear of contradiction. I am a direct beneficiary of SHA. Just the other day, my wife had serious issues with her health. She went into hospital, and SHA paid. It really paid, not just saying, it paid. And so if I have seen it work, I have no reason to say it's not working. But now the problem we have here right now is this mere fact that somebody was used to what the minister has been saying, to putting up some false claims and lies just to defraud the government. And now we are in a place where they say, you know, I was shocked to hear that 10 billion, you know, 10 billion is not 10 million. Yeah. 10 billion money that was detected as suspicious claims to SHA. And with that stopping, you know, somebody must really have some pain, because I'm imagining somebody had made plans to get maybe 200 million or 500 million from this thing, and now the government has said this will not pay. And going even a step further, even suspending the license, the operation license of some hospitals. This would by all means offend some people. But truth be told, fighting corruption is the most expensive initiative any government can undertake, because everybody in the system would want to find a way of defrauding and stealing from the public. And so sometimes we had a famous US ambassador who was saying the system of thievery. Everybody wants to thieve something. Everybody, when you get an opportunity, we are in a system where when somebody gets a government appointment, the first thing they start thinking is, how am I going to steal from the government? Because they want to look for means and tools of getting more than they deserve to earn.
Okay.
And so if we were to take the right direction, we must agree that fighting of corruption is a very expensive trend, and it is not going to go well with so many of us. There are so many people who will get hurt in the process. There are so many people who will feel like their rights are being stepped on, because there are people who think stealing is their right. They think defrauding the public is their right. So when you stop them, they'll come fighting back. They'll come back guns blazing. But I think it's about time those of us who care to stand and say, if it is anything to deal with corruption, we have to support the systems.
Okay.
We have to make this thing work. We have to make SHA succeed, because it has already indicated that it is working. It is working. Okay. And if it is working, then let us help it work. Okay. The other day, a friend of mine was going to India for I think eye surgery or something of that kind, and I was surprised that the government pays 500,000 for you. And you know, I did not know until people are saying it is not working. Then we found a way to go, and we reached out to SHA, and they said, yes, we'll pay 500,000. So you need to just look for the extra money that you needed. If that is the case, really, okay, why not we support the system and make them work? You know, this character of us wanting to complain about everything and making everything, including a good thing. You see, KBC is looking very nice. When you watch KBC, it is looking very beautiful. It is actually showing some of smartest pictures than some other organizations. Okay. But then if our character is to say, no, because KBC is associated to the government, so it is not good, then we shall keep crying foul even on a good thing. Okay. Let's give credit where it is due. Good things are good things. Fighting corruption is a good thing, and we all must support it. SHA is working. It is not perfect, But then we can make it perfect by supporting it and encouraging the reforms to take place. Those who are crying fouls, it is okay. Like my brother says, kelele chura aizui ng'ombe kunywa maji.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for that particular comment.
Yes.
Especially aside from the Chan, remember there are so many things in KBC.
There are quite a number of things. Abdiaziz, I just want to add one thing before you give me your next shot.
Yes.
In regards to this, I think the tradition of you remember when the roads to northern Kenya was announced by the president.
Yes.
People were criticizing the president for no reason. When he has said IDs are free, there will be no vetting.
Okay.
Very respected people, including governors, were saying we are terrorists, so we should not be given IDs. You know, and now, because Duale has done a great job, people think they must criticize it. And this is all about the critics. I was shocked. A medical doctor who is a senator.
Okay.
What is his name? Dr. Remind me of Kakamega Senator.
Bone
Halwale. Saying that for corruption to end, Duale and Mwangangi should go. Or the chair of Shah. You know, that person understands this system very well. Unless he has become deschooled after becoming a politician and went into the corridors of
Since
politics.
he's not here...
No. I'm not taking him as a personal issues, but I'm just saying we shouldn't expect that from someone, a medical doctor who understands that.
Okay.
The system, as my brother has put it, this system is a system that is working. And those people, as the president said some times back, this is a system that is initiated for the weak ones, not those ones who have money and they want to steal more. That's why you see someone who cannot afford overseas medical expenses gets benefits from Shah. So I think it's all about the corruption that Duale is fighting, and it is this corruption that is fighting back. And if he stays firm, focused, I put an article on one of the social media and I said, if Duale does not get distracted by these noisemakers, then we will have a clean Afia house that will benefit Kenyans where it is supposed to, what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to be done.
Okay. And then finally, gentlemen, given that we're running out of time, let me delve into this particular issue of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC, particularly on voter registration. This is not the first time Daktari and David were having this particular conversation. The registration will kick off at exactly on September 29th. That will be on a Monday across the country. Quickly, Daktari, let me start with you. In terms of addressing IBC when it comes to the voter registration, because this is a matter that has been even in court so many times in 2017, 2022, what should they be addressing?
I think first, according to the procedures of Electoral Commission, IBC, there was this clause which says that after every 10 years, the register becomes absolute, and a new boundary review is done, and a new registration is also effected. This time, this has not happened because of the crisis we went through. Meaning then, they are diving direct into the existing system. We will have a lot of crises there. One, first and foremost, there were areas where voter registrations were done double or 3 times. And to increase the number of voters, you'll realize someone will have 3 IDs and he's registering for 3 voter registration. This is something that has been in question for many years. And we expected this time when the new registers are rolled out, we will have a clean registers with the minimal malpractice. You also have people who have passed on, but the IDs exist with their families. And now they are still in the registers. And during the election time, the May time of the election, people will use those IDs to vote in, or the register will be malpractice in terms of voting in. So we expected, I know the fault is coming not from IBC or commissioners, it's coming from the delay in bringing the commissioners on board. But the important thing is that we will have quite a number of malpractice. Number 3, voter movements. You realize that you want to go and move your voting polling stations to another one. And last time what we experienced is that officials within IBC who are mandated to do that will eventually drop those requests for change. And you realize that the people who you wanted to go and vote for you, and they moved their polling station to where you wanted, have not been affected because they have been influenced by another politician who is trying to protect that polling station so that people don't move there, or that constituency. So I think there are quite a number of things they need to do. One, they should have people who will going to do the right thing, and with minimal interference from politicians, particularly those who are currently in office, because these are people who will always want to manipulate the process so that at the end of the day, when election time comes, they have an upper hand to manipulate further the election process. Secondly, they need to be very keen with the registers in terms of who is actually still there, who is not there, who has passed on. These are things that I don't know how they're going to prove it. That needs to be. Last election, someone who was 150 years old voted. Are you aware of that? 150 years old, it was in the domain. I mean, it's crazy for an ID that shows the age of that particular person is 150. Even if he will have been alive, that particular person cannot even vote. So I think Electoral Commission, my friend Hassan Nur Hassan, with his chair, the rest of the team, I'm sure because they were also keenly observing what has happened in 2022, they will go and address those issues. But the important thing is that we should not be rushed also, because September probably in northern regions, this is when the dry season is actually at the high peak. And we know pastoralists usually move away with their animals, including their families outside the country where they can get pasture and water. And that's how 2010, was it 2019 census? We were told we have grown less by 500,000. You know, we were 1.2 in 10 years back, and now we grew to 600,000. Meaning, what happened? The population was out of the country before greener pasture, and it was a very bad time. So they need to concentrate on the actual context of the areas that they want to go and provide. They should not only look at the urban centers. Finally, we would have loved for them to cut costs in terms of this process, to introduce a digital platform. I can register from the comfort of my phone for voters registration if they put the system. The way we can check now, I can actually go into the check my status. They should also give us an opportunity to feed in our information and choose our polling station. That way, it will be effective, cost effective for everybody. It can be done very quickly, and of course we can make savings. And that way they will also have a proof of what has been done, because systems never lie. They cannot erase systems once that is done. So my prayer is that they will introduce a digital platform where everyone will go into register the polling stations that he'll wish to vote in from the comfort of his house, so that we don't necessarily create a situation where people have to travel to a polling station in northern Kenya, just pay around 50,000 to come back, to go and register and come back.
Sawa Daktari. Let me allow also David to chime in with this particular conversation, especially, David, this comes at a very critical time when you're cleaning up that particular register. We do have a new commission in place in terms of IBC. Why is this vital, especially setting in mind that in November we'll be having these by-elections?
You know, I've said it before, Kenya, we are a very advanced nation, digitally and in many other ways. I've said it, we need a legislation that would allow that when somebody attains age of acquiring a national ID, as your biometrics and details are being captured for ID, at that particular time, you should be registering for voters registration or a voters card, so that we do not spend so much money on voter registration, yet we also spend money on registering people to get their national IDs. Now, if we have a person registering to get a voter's ID also registers to be a voter. Then in Kenya, if I die today, they will be issued with death certificate to ascertain that this man has exited. So when the government is issuing the death certificate to a person who has died, they also go ahead to delete this person from the systems and by extension delete this person from the IBC voter register. In other words, like we are saying we need an e-procurement, I think we need e-register for IEBC as well. We need to have an e-register where I do not need to go through a lot of hassles just for me to be a voter. I need to know that as a registered citizen of this country, one of my rights is to vote for my leader. And if that be the case, if I went into the system today, I'll check my details and I'll know I am legible and viable. I can go and vote. So I think this is the area that, again, people would resist because it is straightforward. But there is a need for us as a nation to agree that we need to advance. We need to move. Many people come here to benchmark, including when the famous Justice Maraga nullified the presidential election. There are so many judges who came to Kenya to just witness that season, how it was happening. So if we have done some of landmark rulings in this country, we have made some of landmark decisions that other people envy and come to learn from us, I think we should also go a step further and grant IEBC access to the national data where every registered citizen should also be extended to the voters register, create an e-register for voters so that everybody can access the information, and those who have died, they are removed from the systems automatically, because even as we go to do the registration starting from the date they have announced, you'd realize that there are those people who died 10, 20 years ago who still exist in the voter register. And like he says, and the famous tale from Baba, who says somebody wakes up from their grave, they go and vote and come back to lay in their grave because systems are faulted. Systems are not working. So it is important we sort this out and make sure that it works. Number two, I think it is going to be hard, especially in places where by-elections are being conducted. Yes. You know, they won't have sufficient time to onboard everyone for this particular assignment. So probably this will be for the long term. But you see, if we had now an e-register, and for example, if the legislation would allow that we have every registered citizen also extended as a voter, then we wouldn't be having these issues of how am I going to do it, how am I going to run it, and all this. So I think it's about time we agree to move. Just like we digitized our licenses, we should now move ahead and agree this manual registration of IBs should be scrapped and have this thing done digitally, and by, like I said, just use the government registration bureau and get this thing done.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Just one.
30 seconds.
Just 30 seconds, yes.
Not even
I
one,
think
30, because
Kenya is the only country where you may have an ID and you are not allowed to access anything. You are not a citizen. True. For example, you have national ID. In other countries, you have citizenship or an ID. Passport, you don't need to be vetted. You don't need to be processed. You just walk in and get your passport, pay for the fees and walk your... Kenya, you can still, you can be denied, you can be told at the passport department that you are not a Kenyan, and on the other hand, you have an ID. So it is a nation that needs to embrace e-platforms, so that if you think the registration bureau for national ID is not genuine, then, and you think that the people who are processing your passport are genuine, then we do away with the registration for ID and we go into passports. So I think that what I'm trying to say is that we need to have a system in place that is digitally monitored and that can be digitally managed in order for us to have efficiency in all our processes from ID to even IEBC, as my brother has put it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Daktari. That is Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance expert, as well as David Aluru, the Chief Executive Officer of Regional Agency for International Development and Leadership. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this morning. And of course, this is a conversation that we'll be keeping an eye on, including IEBC that we're speaking of, is about to appear before the Public Accounts Committee over audited matters on the end of the year of June 2023. A story we're keeping an eye on, as and when we get it, we'll be informing you later on. But now we need to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be speaking matters education, so don't go too far.
Wewe ndio mseme tu, uone ni mlevi. Nini imefika hapa? Nadhani ni venye school fees yako inamsumbua.
Tadi nini umekuja?
Allah, nini mbaya?
Tadi.
Nini? Elijah, wewe.
Nika. Hakuna mahali imeandikwa mimi ndio nitamaliza umaskini wa familia yenu. Ile kitu anafanya na Pastor John.
Nyamaza. Nitacheka mimi.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
They say the art without art would just be, get it? We circumnavigate the globe and traverse the local scene to bring you art and culture at their very best. From fine art, culinary art, performing arts, and even cultural events, you name it, and we have got you covered. My name is Kevin Kasioki, and I will be serving you this and much, much more each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Born in 1938, Joshua Mulanda Angatia joined elective politics in 1979 when he clinched the Lurambi North parliamentary seat. The constituency later birthed Malava and Lugari constituencies. Before his appointment to cabinet, he had a long-standing career as a teacher, rising to the position of principal of Nairobi Upper Hill School. In 1992, Angatia won the Malava parliamentary seat on a KANU ticket, after which President Daniel Moi appointed him as the Minister for Health. Shortly after his appointment as minister, Angatia claimed mafia cartels at Afya House had put roadblocks that were hindering his work. Angatia faced a number of challenges, including having to deal with one of the longest doctor strike in the country. In the strike, the medics challenged the government by demanding their rights, including the right to form a trade union of their own. President Moi responded by threatening that the government would import doctors from India and other countries to replace the Kenyan medics. Some medics even fled to neighboring countries, while others left government service for private practice. After the push and pull, the doctors resumed work, and later the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union was registered. Angatia was also entangled in the Pearl Omega affair. Pearl Omega was a herbal-based medicine developed by Professor Arthur Obel and was a supposed cure for HIV and AIDS. Angatia denounced the drug a week later, claiming Professor Obel had not followed medical ethics and had bent the rules of medicine to suit his quest. Angatia was later transferred to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. He lost his parliamentary seat just before the 1997 elections to his 1992 opponent Nathan Anaswa, who had successfully challenged Angatia's win in the 1992 polls, and a by-election was held. Anaswa dethroned Angatia, clinching the Malava seat, triggering Angatia's retirement from politics. He died in 2004, aged 66 years. For the cabinet, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. This is the second hour of News Check. We'll be focusing on the education sector based on the competency-based curriculum and the upcoming examinations that is set for October all the way to November, from KPSEA to KCSE. And of course, in terms of how learners are of course, taking over this particular assessment that will be happening in those particular months. Some are new to this particular system that the government has put in place. You do remember the various recommendations that was made by the Presidential Working Party. Now, interestingly, this will be a two-session here in the capital and all the way to Kisumu County. Our very own, that is Wycliffe Okech, will be speaking to the Kenya Private School Association Chair, that is Charles Onchome, in terms of how the private schools are, of course, ensuring that this particular guidelines that are given by the Ministry of Education and other stakeholders are being implemented within their various institutions. Here in studio will also be having guests, but we'll be speaking on the recommended guidelines under the competency-based curriculum. You do know that the Presidential Working Party suggested that we move away from the initial 2633 system to the new 26243. Now, that will mean that in the pre-primary, that is ECD, 2 years, 5 to 6 years old. Primary school will have 6 years, that is 7 to 12 years old, grade 1 to 6. Junior secondary school, that is the JSS, will have at least 2 years. 13 to 14 years old of students will be taking in that particular program from grade 7 to 8. Senior secondary school will be 4 years, 15 to 18 years old, grade 9 to 12. And then tertiary university, it will be 3 years depending on the program that one has undertaken. We do know that programs that even supersede this particular timelines that have been set within the new curriculum. Now, joining us here in the studio is none other than Susan Wanjiru. She is the director of Kuza International School. Susan, welcome.
Thank you.
And also joining us, a familiar face, Constantine Okello, an education policy expert. Constantine, welcome once more.
Thank you very much.
And let me start with you, Susan. Given that you're the director of this particular Kuza International School, in terms of implementing this new curriculum, how is it so far in schools?
In terms of implementing the CBC, it has been well. I think our biggest challenge is understanding, especially from the parents. That has been a big challenge. I don't think enough education has been given to them on what CBC is or CBE is and what is expected for them and what they should expect from their learners. So that has been the biggest challenge. But in terms of our infrastructure in our schools, not so, the difference is not so much because the classes are already there. But what we concentrate on now is that we have to have infrastructure for things like fields, we have to have things like balls, because a lot of what they're learning now is very practical compared to what we had before in the 844 system. So now we have a lot of practical learning. So we have to have a lot of labs. We never had a home science lab in the primary section. Now you must have, because there's nutrition where the kids have to cook. So things like that. Now in primary school, kids are going to do agriculture. So we have to have a place where kids can plant. So you also need a lot of space. Yeah, so in terms of that, that is how us as educational and people who are supporting education, that's what we are doing to support the CBE.
Constantine, in terms of implementation, where are we as a country and what tremendous strides have we made so far?
Okay, that's a very good question because, you know, we operate on standards. I think it's good that we adopt the standards and then we have what we call risk and opportunity register. As just the madam has said that we have to keep on improving so that we can meet the required standard. But if we just come with the policies and without checking the field, the parent or the teachers might not understand. And then it can create what we call a depression to adopt a new system. Because if you get education, you understand something better, and then implementation will come much easier. So if in terms of the government schools, you'll find that our schools does not meet the equal standards. You'll find that some are improved and some are still a bit low. So that one might affect other schools, and other schools might perform very well. So in the future, I think it's good to have what we call risk and opportunity register, so that we can have a uniformity, and then we can also have the education to the parent, so that we move together to develop our country. Thank you very much.
And let me come back to you, Director. We're talking about how the learners have received this particular new curriculum. In terms of receptiveness, how are learners reacting to it?
For CBE, I think the learners are reacting to it well. Learners love it because now we spend a lot of time outside class, unlike before, where everything we used to do, everything was in class. So now, even in a normal lesson, we have to take at least 10 minutes and walk about. For the younger learners, we go to the field or they walk around the school, and now they learn by seeing and they learn by doing. So the written part, a lot of writing has been removed. A lot of cramming has also been removed. So it is easier for the learner to remember what they have learned actually in this new system. I think for the learners, it's working well for them. So it's up to us as the educationalists to make sure that we provide the facilities that are required. But for the learners, the system is very good. It works for them. Yes.
And Constantine, coming back to you, you know, many parents, you just clearly stated, in terms of infrastructure, comparing public to private school has been a little bit different. In terms of implementation in the private will be easier because there are less learners, because more money is being spent within the private sector. Parents are catering for the fees of their own children. But for the people who are unable to reach those heights in taking their own children to private, in terms of public affordability, how can that be addressed?
That's a very good question again. Once more, that's why it's very important that the government should have done what we call risk and opportunity register, and then they understand where there's gaps. And those gaps now, they can either subsidize by giving money to the schools so that some parents, all the children can get education, because education is very, very important. Yeah. So if we do not actually consider that one, it might affect public schools, and private schools can end up doing very well, and then they let the public school to lag backward. And that's why I'm saying that it's better to have what we call a uniformity or a standard, whereby where the government gives sufficient funds to ensure that the standard is met, because the standard is what's going to give the outcome. So the outcome is the result after the education. So as far as I'm concerned, you see, now most of the children, they come from poor schools in the village. We'll find that some of them, even they go to school without eating, and even parents are being told to contribute the money which they don't have. So actually it affects the children. A system might be very good, perfect, but the implementation might really be a problem because of the income of the parents. That's why the government should put more emphasis, and it should not sit and take the decision. No, we should have the standard and see how to meet all those gaps so that we can have a system which actually benefits each and every child of this country. And also another thing is also that outside also they must be preparing to receive those people, because innovation in Kenya is not really taken very seriously, because we have not actually prepared also the government institution to adopt the innovation. If you look at the system, our system, education is good. Children who complete the school, for example, you'll find that most of them, they have not been absorbed. You see, now if the CBC come, the government is going to concentrate on the CBC students and then forget those people who use the old system and will not be having the employment. So it might affect the country. So government has to work very hard to ensure that the country is moving forward with everyone. Either the CBC and all those people who are doing the old system, we move together as a country so that we succeed.
And coming back to you, Susan, we're talking about existing structures that have been there for years to come. People still talk about the old system, which was the 844 system. Now having this particular new system, how do we move as a society to embrace it? You clearly stated now that the parents need to be self-aware of the changes that have been made. So what are those gaps that not only schools are required to address, but the Ministry of Education as well?
In terms of gaps, I think the most important would be probably education awareness. They need to educate, especially parents, the community, on what it is that is required from this system. I think another gap we have is in terms of education, especially of our teachers. Remember, these are the same teachers who are teaching the 844 system. And so they've gone for a 2-day training, and now we are expecting them to teach the new CBE. Changing mindset doesn't take place in 2 days. So in terms, they normally go for retooling, which is good, but I think we can do more. I think in terms of for the teachers, the government can do more. And also in terms of support, CBE is not a cheap system. It's expensive because the initial is very expensive because we have to install like labs for the schools, whether it is government or private, it's still a cost. And also for the parents, it's a cost because before they just used to buy textbooks. Now we are telling them we need knitting, we need them to buy all these tools. Some of them we even ask for them to buy looms, which are not even locally available or available in their vicinity. Though the system requires that we use locally available material. But remember, even that teacher who is asking for that loom probably has not been trained on how to make it. And now we are expecting this teacher to read the textbook and train the learner. So I think those are real gaps that we need to address. Yeah.
I'll be coming to you, Constantine, just in a few, but let me go down to the field now to Kisumu County, where our very own, that is Weekly for Ketch, is joining us. He's going to talk to the Kenya Private Association Chair, Charles Onchome, in terms of how those private schools are also inculcating the CBE into their program and how learners are being receptive. Once we do get a hold of him, I do hear we have lost him, but as and when we get him once more, we'll be going to him. Let me come now to Constantine. Constantine, we're talking about in terms of the cost effectiveness of this particular program. Before, she has talked about it, that parents were not able, were only catering for textbooks. Not so many interactions when it comes to giving out money. Now parents are required to give learners equipments, textbooks keeps on changing. You witnessed the back and forth between the publishers and the Ministry of Education, especially under CBE. So in terms of ensuring that parents not only cater for their children, because every parent wants their kids to have the best education ever so that they can build their life afterwards. In terms of ensuring that parents are being met with cost effectiveness when it comes to the implementation of CBE, so what are certain policies would you recommend to the Ministry of Education to address this particular issue?
Yeah, you know, policy knows the priority. On my view, the priority is the organizational structures, which is the priority. So the organizational structures is that they could have done assessment to understand the capability of the parents in the village, if they are able actually to support the CBE. You see, if the parents are very poor, you see, the system will be affected because they will not be able to contribute and children will stay at home, and it's going to affect the whole country. So that could have been the priority. So the planning matters a lot before you come with the policy, because in quality management system, we normally prioritize the planning. So the planning is that the parents should also have the meetings, and then the feedback from the village, the teachers should give the ministry the feedback from the village, how to improve the system, because based on their capability, so that the government can know how much money is sufficient to cater for all these children. Because the worst thing is that we find that some children are going to school and others are not going to school. That's the worst thing we can have as a country. because we shall not be moving to the right direction. So the issue is they have to do what the way I say that if they have the risk and opportunity register, including each and everything, they will know all the infrastructures needed. And then now they will know how to cap those gaps so that we can improve. For sure, for private school, it's much better because parents are at least a bit able. But in the village, you will find that some parents are completely unable to support the education. And you can try to investigate the situation, how their children are going to suffer. So that's where the government should put emphasis, because a good system must aim to uplift the weakest person should be uplifted. So actually the government might, the evaluation could have determined the money needed, and the government look at the resources so that they can sufficiently support the education so that we move as a country. Yeah.
Director Susan, I'll be coming to you. Let me rope in my colleague, that is Wycliffe Okechu, is set to interview the Kenya Private School Association Chair Charles Ochome. Wycliffe, you can hear me. Good morning. The conversation has started. We're talking about the implementation of the CBE program, not only in the private schools but in the public schools.
Many thanks, Abdiaziz. Back in Nairobi, like you mentioned it, we are live from Kisumu, and this morning I am going to engage the national chairperson of the Kenya Private Schools Association, that is Mr. Charles Ochome, on the subject matter that is under discussion right there that you are having. Also in the studio, we know that both private schools and public schools are all regulated by the Ministry of Education, and all the policies that are enacted by the government affect all the schools regardless of the category. And this morning, I will engage the national chair of the Kenya Private Schools Association on the sort of collaboration that the private schools, or that the association is having with the Ministry of Education in furthering the education of the learners. Mr. Charles, if you basically can move here and look into the camera. This morning, we are talking about the back to school. Our prime focus is on the rollout of the CBC learning, and the CBC curriculum necessitates continuous assessment of learners. Paint for us the picture as it is on the kind of collaboration that the government, or rather the Ministry of Education, is having with the private schools in assessing continuously the learners.
Thank you so much. The government, through its sagas, has got a very vivid and lively plan which we fall into. This is like we have in assessment we have the Kenya National Examinations Council, we have the KICD, we have the Teachers Service Commission, and we have the Directorate of Quality Assurance. All these sagas help in the assessment and evaluation of the children. One, the Directorate of Quality ensures that learning environment is up to date, is good before it is approved. So an assessment that takes place must focus into the environment where that assessment is taking place, and that is looked into by the Director of Quality Assurance. Then the Teachers Service Commission, through their CEO and their staff, ensures that the people who are overseeing these children are well trained and are able to do those assessments as per the ministry's guidelines. So that is another angle we fall into. Then we have the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, this KICD, who prepares the guidelines for learning, the materials for learning, and that is what is used for assessment. And then the person now that prepares this assessment is the Kenya National Examinations Council. And these are the people now who prepare the assessment. They are brought to our schools, and then the assessments and the evaluations are done by our teachers. That is the plan that is in place, and I think it is so seamless. I don't think there's anything to fault about it.
Quite a cutout framework there for the collaboration between the MOE and the Kenya private schools. And still on that sort of collaboration, we know that the JSS learners, the junior secondary school learners, through that continuous assessment, they are selected and placed on in senior schools. How are private schools integrated in this exercise?
Thank you. This is a new method of assessment, how the children are going to be placed into from junior school to senior school. And we, at the moment, have set up a committee of the Kenya private schools and the Ministry of Education through the permanent secretary in the ministry. And that committee is looking into ways of harmonizing that at the moment. It is still ongoing. Assessments, I hope, when they finish, will be seamless because we have 4 of our members in that committee. The ministries also have 4 people. They are looking at the modalities of placing children in senior school next year. So at the moment, that's all I can say about it because it is still work in progress.
Still work in progress, and actually that is the message that the Ministry of Education has continued to put out there, because this is a new curriculum, this rollout still continuing, and any worries or other concerns that the parents could be having in terms of the rollout of this exercise, it is well known that it is an exercise that is continuously going on. And we are living in a digital age, the age of artificial intelligence, the age of most things are done digitally. And even the assessment of learners in the future is going to take place digitally. How are the private schools embracing e-learning?
Thank you so much on this. I want to bring to your attention that Kenya private schools is not a homogeneous thing. This is a conglomeration of various schools coming together under an umbrella association, the so-called KPSA. And we allow every institution to be able to manage their institutions as per the guidelines given by the ministry. So we do not have the powers as an association to say this school must do this or this one must not do this. That is ensured and still being carried out by the ministry's arms that I've talked about there. But I would like to say that as an association, we bring up our members together. Even at the moment, we'll be taking a team of them to China. And the purpose of such visits is to be able to look at what the other people are doing at the other part of the world and be able to come up with good practices so that we implement them. We have done this over the years. And in line with that, we also see, because most of these gadgets come from China, so we expect our members to be able to do shopping or get contacts of various manufacturers of these assets to be able to bring them back home to enable learning to take place. But when it comes to the government, I think we have got the issue of the government. We have had that cry of the government supporting private schools, and that has been a very lively discussion, but many times it hits a snag when they say this is a private institution. They do not want to put anything in it. Others would agree, others do not see the light, want to see the light of the day. But I want to say this. These private institutions, if they are enabled, I think they can help the government bridge up financial gaps. And how do we bridge them? I would like to say that if the government would have an empowerment fund, which should not be a free fund, but fund which can be able to jumpstart things like the AI in schools now, because these are very costly things for the private sector education. They borrow it and pay it back with a margin which is affordable, not what we currently go through in the banks. I think that would be a way forward rather than ask the government to give us money. An empowerment fund would be able to spur up the private education sector to ease up the pressure in the government schools, and also to be able to create more revenue for the government. Because when there's growth, obviously they will be able to pay more money to the exchequer. So that is a collaboration. Actually, we are also discussing with the PS through the ministry, so that if it goes through, I think that would be a better thing. But so far, it's still just work in discussion. Okay. Yeah, but we on the other hand, as I said, we are not homogeneous. There are quite a number of the private sector, private schools that have put up digital learning. Even here, where we are at the Golden Elites, we have relayed digital learning for quite some years now since the COVID-19. And we are not the only one. There are quite a number of schools, but we are not on the same way, the same playing with the others. Others are struggling. This is why we are saying we need that kind of empowerment fund to enable all these schools to come to par with digital learning in our schools. Yeah.
Talking about that fund, and it is now it's out there that the resources are quite limited, and quite often we see the public institutions actually complaining about late disbursement of resources to capitation to their schools. I don't know how feasible this is possible. This is in terms of creation of that fund in support of the public or the private institutions. How feasible is it?
You know, like when you are confronted with the problems, you must look for solutions. And I'm trying to offer a solution through the KPSA. We are not going to say now that the government should capitate all private schools, because even their own schools, they are struggling. We can see it, it's live. We have had the cries from the Treasury. But we are saying a one-off fund is not a big deal. The government can sacrifice. Besides, if you invest in something, you reap more. So we are simply telling the government, invest in private schools by putting in an empowerment fund, which they pay back, create more revenue, open up more revenue for the exchequer, so that they would be able also to bridge the gap of the financial constraints they have. So that's what we are saying. The government must also just have some affirmative action to reinvest in some of these sectors to spur growth, because when they are big, obviously the revenue the government is going to get from them will be big. So if the government says, yes, we don't have the money, then we will not also have the money. So it is a win-win situation for both the government and the private sector. Nobody is saying, give us free money. I know people would be saying, oh, private schools cannot be given free money because they are private institutions. Nobody is asking for free money. We are only asking for money which can be paid back, which is affordable, which other countries do to their people. Like the people who come here to invest in our country, they only do better because they get their funding cheap in their countries. Okay. Yeah.
Fine. Our very last point of discussion this morning before we hand back to Nairobi, to the studio. We will come back here for the final word, but then our very last topic point on this is that capitation to public schools. We know that you are speaking from regarding your position as the chairperson of the Kenya Private Schools Association, but then the capitation to public schools, it is more often it is late. It comes late. Does this have any impact on private institutions?
You know, impact can be positive or negative. So obviously, when capitation to public schools is late, there is a negative impact on those schools. The learning cannot take place effectively because I believe there are materials that one is supposed to procure and be used in those schools. That cannot happen in time. And remember, school calendar has timelines that are very strict, and the syllabus follows weekly. So when something is late, I think that is work which is delayed, and it means that the students will not get the teaching and the facilities required for those teaching in time. So that is a negative impact. Now, as to whether it affects the private sector is another thing, because in the first place we don't get it. So that's why we are saying now that it is even hard to get it in public enterprises, public sector, why don't we forego the capitation and get the empowerment fund, which we can pay with some money to be able to also cushion the government by spurring our sectors. They will be getting more revenue, so they will possibly get more money to disburse to those schools. So the impact would be like positive if the government gave us money. Obviously, people say there will be defaulters. That happens all over the world. We have learned that when you are doing something, 70% is 100% if you want to get things done. Because the 30% might be looked down, okay, we have a success rate of 70%. So I cannot for sure say if the government does that, everybody will be paying in time. Those defaulters can be 30%. But because I believe if we are paying taxes monthly, we can also be able to pay back that money equally the way we have been paying our statutory obligations to the government. So the impact will be that there will be a positive gain from what I call the empowerment fund going back to the government. The government can also use it to empower the public sector. Yeah.
The Empowerment Fund, which you seem to be very categorical on, and that is your rallying call this morning. But then we hold it right there. We are coming back to you for your final word. Abdi, we've been speaking with the chairperson of the Kenya National Private, or rather Kenya Private Schools Association, Mr. Charles Ochome. And before we come back to him for his final word regarding the collaboration between the MOE and the private schools across the country, let me just hand it back to you so that you can continue that interview in studio briefly before you come back to us. Abdi.
Well, thank you so much, Wycliffe. That is a very interesting conversation that I want to even rope in my guest here with me. Let me start with you, Director. Talking about this particular empowerment fund, you have just heard from your chair just speaking about it, that is Mr. Charles Ochome. How feasible will that be for the government?
I think the empowerment fund is something feasible because generally this is not free money. It is money that is being repaid back. Already there is the youth empowerment fund. There is the empowerment fund for women. So an empowerment fund that supports businesses, because a private school is a business, and a business has to pay back for it to, so that it can borrow again, right? So, and I think private schools are, they're a good business, and the empowerment fund will go a long way, because as I said, we have a lot of investments to make. For example, computers are not cheap. Right, and then we also have to build the labs, and there's a lot of infrastructure, and all these things need a lot of heavy money first before we begin even to reap any profits. So in terms of getting normal business loans, it becomes very expensive, and this has been the impediment to many schools for us to upgrade to where CBC needs us to be, or to where we feel that we need to be as people who are executing the CBE education. But if we had a bit of support from the government in terms of this empowerment fund, it would go a long way, because you can imagine if someone gives you money to buy your laptops or to build your classes, and then you pay back later and not with so much interest. You see, that for a business, that goes a long way. Unlike when you have to remember, even the fees that the parents pay, all of it has a lot of expenses. Running a school is not easy, and it is a very cash upfront job. That is why most of the private schools, they normally ask for a lot of fees, because all these things that the children need, they need money, and it needs to be paid. So sometimes when you look at, when you're running your school, when you look at the books and the balances, you find out that if you were to save money to build the lab, it will take a long time. But if you're given the money up front, build the lab and pay it back, then that makes it easy, and it also helps us to support our learners. Yes.
Constantine, as you react to what the chair was saying, you've even heard him clearly stating that the risk of doing that, there could be defaulters. We know when it comes to giving out loans, we have seen with Hustler Fund, there are people who have defaulted. So how sure can we be as the government, when they allocate those particular funds, they will reap back what they sowed?
Okay, first let me emphasize what I said when I started. I said that the first thing, if we have a good plan and we have risk and opportunity register, then it will indicate all those things. So it will be showing red and green where it works very well. So it will be very easy for government to either adopt it, because if it remains red, it means that it's not performing very well. And also, he said that they're sending a team to China. I have been into the culture development. You know, to develop culture is a very, very complicated thing, because people behave differently. And then, if you go and adapt something from China and you bring it in Kenya, it might not work. You might copy it exactly the way it is, but it's not going to work because of our culture. Our culture is different. For example, what is affecting education? We have direct causes and indirect causes. What are the indirect causes? Indirect causes, things like corruption, things like delay. So once you delay the money to disperse the money to the school, already it's affecting the school. And the time is like water. Once it flows, it's already passed. So it's government, which is actually under the organization, to ensure that there is a seamless operations, whereby they disperse money on time, they support private school, they support public school. As I said, if we have a standard, we're going to have a best outcome. But if we do not have a standard that everybody is struggling on his own, the end result is a lot of problems, and that's what we're trying to avoid. And actually, the chairman talked very well that there's a lot of challenges affecting the private school also, which government might not be knowing or they're knowing. But if we have where it is black and white, it becomes easier parent to discuss, official to discuss, then the CS to discuss. So when it goes to the CS now, he knows exactly what is supposed to be done so that we avoid what we call triangulations, where things delay. And somebody might be suffering, some children might be suffering, and nobody knows. So actually, we should adopt such things. And then that one is called the management system, which can be done, and then we have a uniformity. Because as you see, Chairman said that some schools are doing very well, some are not doing very well, which is very true. You might not know if we do not have the standard. So I'm emphasizing that we have a standard. As we adopted CBC, we have a standard of operations whereby all the risks are known and are being addressed adequately by the government so that we succeed in bringing up children with children who are informed. But we should not inform, because when we do the meeting, what we forget is indirect factors. We don't discuss about indirect factors because they're not seen completely. For example, if the money is given to school and then this misappropriated, you see, that's indirect factor. It was not factored in the first place. Now that money has been misappropriated, it's not going to function very well. So they will keep quiet, and then the government, where it is, it knows that the school is running properly. And that's why it's very good that with the current technology, the way we talked about the technology, all these schools can be looped into one system, whereby the risks are known, risks are reported and they are known. And also the teachers mostly play a significant role because teachers are the ones who are experiencing all these problems. The issue contributed by the teachers should be evaluated and then improved so that we meet their needs. And that's very important. That's how the standard works because most likely the world is operating on quality management system, which is ISO 9001:2015. So once we adopt that one and we move together, definitely we are going to succeed. But if we just do the meetings and then we forget, that's why you see there's no capitation, there's a lot of gaps, and those gaps now bring a problem, and the end result, we don't achieve what we expected to achieve. And the way you have said, like Hustler Fund, you see, Hustler Fund, people took that money, but for sure they were taking because it's government money. And most of them, they never benefited. They took it, they used it, and it went like that. That's not good. So the first thing we have to do, that better planning will give better result. Poor planning will give poor result.
Okay.
Yes.
Coming back to you, as you respond to the same issue, quickly, let's go now into the assessment. In terms of teachers who are trained in the private, in the public sector, there's an examination that is coming up next in October and November. In terms of preparations and the training of the teachers, because this will not be the normal education assessment that we have been used to in the primary school. So are your teachers even ready for this assessment?
For the assessment one, we have already done the first part of the assessment because they normally start in second term where we do the practical assessment. So yes, the first part has already been done. And now whatever we're waiting for is the summative assessment where it is the written exam. Yes, so that is what we're waiting for. Are our teachers trained? I would say the teachers are trained. Why? Because the assessment rubrics that we normally use are very detailed and they're very clear. So you will know who requires what and who to give what. So that is very clear. So I think the teachers should be trained, or our teachers are trained. Maybe in terms of responding to him is when he talked about the standard. So maybe what we expect from the Ministry of Education is, yes, the standard of what are we supposed to see or what should we expect as we implement the CBE. Of course, they already have a standard for what they expect from the school, but what do we expect as we implement this curriculum? So that standard is probably what he's talking about that we need to see or we need to be given as educators. Yes.
Okay, just to add on something small, you see, when we have standard, we must also have feedback. Do we have the feedback? Maybe Madam can help us if we have the feedback, so it can help there. It can help for the opportunity for improvement. Madam, please.
Do we have feedback?
Yes.
Maybe the feedback is there, but maybe there is no feedback channel. Because what we have from the Ministry of Education, they normally come and assess us. And we give them our challenges. And but what we don't have from them is what do they expect us to, how do they expect us to implement, or what do they need to see from the learners as we implement this CBE. Yes.
And
so,
of course, okay. As a response, given that we're running out of time, in terms of addressing Constantine, the main issue that has been there, we have a huge bulk of learners leaving school, well educated, they have the proper skills, but there are no jobs out there. So will this particular system address the needs that are in the market?
Okay, that's a very good question. And the same question is what I'm facing also, because I'm also cost analysis, which is not in Kenya. And actually, our main job, my main work is to create employments. But the problem we are having in this country is that the government itself is developed what we call complacency. They have not adopted new system. So as much as even we come with the CBC, there's a big problem in this country. Because if you go to the ministries, first thing is that they don't adopt new thing, and there's no a proper channel to come with the new thing. For example, we have road accident. Road accident is costing Kenya 450 billion. Corruption is costing Kenya 600 billion. This is 1 trillion. Who are stealing all this money? Who are causing the accident? It is we ourselves Kenyans. So this is the first priority. All this money going to the wastage should be, we have to look at the way to prepare to receive those students as they are coming. So our government has not created such avenue because they are not adopting with the new idea. Because people want to remain where they are. We call it complacency. And complacency is affecting this country. You can find that back 10 years backward, all the 8,000 students who are living in the higher learning institution, they are just idling around. Recently, we saw them on the street. The children were full here, claiming that actually things are not running properly. So government must ensure that they open the ways. As much as we prepare for CBC, they must open the way so that they convert all these losses into job opportunities. We must create a space so that people can enter. If there's no space, it's just like having a plane without airport. You cannot land.
We're running out of time. Let me allow 30 seconds at least to Susan so that we can cap it off and then throw it to Wycliffe. 30 seconds going forward, what would you like to see? Just 30 seconds.
Maybe going forward, I'd like to see the empowerment fund for schools. I'd also like to see the Ministry of Education taking more interest in what private schools are doing and even supporting private schools. Yes, and I would also, maybe I'm a bit positive, but I think CBE is a very good system, and we prepare our learners not just for employment, but even to be self-employed and to think on their own. So there are good things coming up, and I think CBE is a good system. So let us speak positively about it. It will bring great things to this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is Susan Wanjiru, the director of Kuza International School, and Constantine Okela, the education policy expert. Thank you, sir, for making time for us. Thank you, madam, for joining us.
Thank you.
I want to hand it over to our very own, that is Wycliffe Okechu, is still with the Kenya Private School Association Chair Charles Onchome on his final remark. Wycliffe, if you can hear me, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Abdi. And just on finalizing, we continued this conversation. Actually, now we are finalizing this conversation with still with the chair of the Kenya Private Schools Association, Mr. Charles Ochome. Just before we throw it back to Nairobi, to my colleague in the studio, you are talking about that empowerment fund. As we finalize, what will be your final word on this?
Thank you. The empowerment fund I'm talking about is a win-win situation for both the government and the private sector education. And I just hope, because many times it is scattered at the Treasury, that the Treasury will see light of how this is just like them investing also in this sector to be able to get good returns. I believe when they look at it from that perspective, then it is good. I know they have given funds to various players, and sometimes it does not come out well. But these are business people. I'm simply saying, empower them, improve the businesses, get better returns.
In terms of assessment?
In terms of assessment, I think I said things are okay because we have quite a number of players in the assessment. It's not one person. It's not one player. Sometimes people think it is NEC. It's not NEC. They have said there is the KICD. I said there is the TSC, and I said there is the Quality Assurance Director team.
Many other government agencies that take part in this particular continuous assessment. And just in 30 seconds, as we finalize, what will be your final word?
I just want to say I've seen positive aspects in the ministry headquarters. We have had very good interactive sessions with the PS, and if this is taken forward, then the education sector will be, particularly the private sector, I think will be better managed than it has been before. And more so, the finance team from the Treasury should always also rush to the occasion and not only think of collection, but also investing in what they collect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And that is where we put a cap on the news check today. And my name is Wycliffe Okech, na kwa sasa tunataka kuchukua mapumziko mafupi, na tutakaporudi basi mwenzangu Kasichana Masha atakuwa akiungana nanyi katika kipindi cha Darubini Weekendi na pia Tamrini. Kwa sasa tunachukua hayo mapumziko mafupi, usibanduke.
Depression, anxiety disorders, panic attacks. According to the World Health Organization, every 8th person worldwide suffers from mental health problems. And the figure is even higher among young people. There's a lack of help. On average, only one psychiatrist is available for every 100,000 people worldwide. In some countries more, in others even less. And therapy is expensive. Now, apps are meant to help. But can you imagine an AI chatbot as your therapist? In Brazil, it is estimated that almost 1 in 10 people have an anxiety disorder, more than anywhere else in the world. This trend is giving rise to a wave of apps promising to improve mental health. The Singulo app, for example, has been downloaded by millions. One of them is Vanessa Malaquias from Sao Paulo. 11 years ago, Vanessa Malaquias from Sao Paulo was diagnosed with anxiety. She'd been having symptoms for years. At any time, her heart would start to race, her breathing became labored, her hands would tremble or shake. It was 2019 when she discovered the app Singulo, which promises to help you overcome your emotional issues. She's been a regular user ever since.
On days when I'm particularly anxious, I have palpitations and that kind of restlessness. I stop what I'm doing, sit here on the bench and take a few deep breaths in and out. I get my phone out and do an emergency exercise.
Singulo's release was in 2017. The app was developed in Brazil by psychologists and neuroscientists. Registration is free, but all features are only available with a paid premium subscription. After registering, you answer questions about yourself to determine strengths and weaknesses. Based on this, you receive a personalized program with videos, audio clips and articles.
I was going through a time of important decisions, and I think the app helped me a lot. To get to know myself better, to make the decisions that needed to be made. Of course, it's nothing miraculous. It's not something that takes you out of the situation completely, but it does put you in the right direction. I think it's great. It makes you look inwards.
Apps like this can definitely help, says Caris Cavazzini. The psychotherapist specializes in the use of technology to improve mental health.
Apps can help in various ways. First, the user can understand the severity of their anxiety and begin to understand what the triggers are that exacerbate that anxiety, learn to understand how the triggers work and how to deal with them.
Vanessa Malaquias has tried therapy several times, but she finds it difficult to open up to people. That's where the app really excels for her. Singulo is now an integral part of her everyday life. And though not all of the advice in the app suits her, the 32-year-old has already been able to overcome some of her fears.
I have been able to gradually work on my anxiety and work on talking to my relatives. Today I can have much better conversations with my parents, which was hardly even possible before.
Mental health issues don't just affect people in their private lives, but also professionally, preventing those affected from being fully productive at work. That's an issue for them and their employer.
Depression has also been on the rise. It's now the #1 cause of sick leave in Brazil. This shows that the situation has been worsening for several years now.
According to the World Health Organization, as many as 12 billion working days are lost every year due to mental health issues, topics which are often neglected in everyday work life. Many feel they're too busy, and others are simply uncomfortable talking to colleagues and employers about it. But this Brazilian company is looking to change that.
Almost all the conversations I had went something like, "You won't believe it, they were smiling yesterday." And today they come back with a certificate saying that they're depressed. Or, "Someone else committed suicide last week." It struck me that there were these problems everywhere and nobody had a solution.
Carolina Dassi has worked a lot with HR departments in large companies. That's why she developed the IVI app together with her team and a psychologist. It's designed to improve mental health in everyday working life. The app is sold to companies who offer it to their employees free of charge. It's designed to help employees better understand themselves and provide advice on dealing with difficult situations.
We mainly focus on anxiety, depression and stress, the most common disorders among employees. What we cannot capture are illnesses such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. That's not what IVI was made for. It cannot diagnose. It was made to help the majority of people.
The aim is to improve people's well-being. Meditation exercises or music can help. But if users are noticeably unwell, therapy is recommended and accessible directly via the app. That information is kept from the companies, of course. Businesses that use IVI do receive evaluations of how their employees are doing. But Carolina Dassi assures us the data is anonymized and untraceable back to individual employees.